Listen. I need you to pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because something extraordinary has been happening this week, and you might not even realize the weight of it yet. Someone in your life, someone whose name just flashed through your mind when I said that, has been carrying your name on their tongue like a secret they're terrified and desperate to tell. 3 separate times this week, they almost said it. 3 times, they came so close to crossing that line between what's safe and what's real that they could taste the words forming. 3 times, they stood at the edge of vulnerability and looked straight down into the unknown. And 3 times, something stopped them. Now, before you think this is just another story about someone being afraid or playing games or not being ready, I need you to understand something crucial. What stopped them each time is actually the most revealing part of this entire situation. Because it's not what you think. It's not about fear of rejection, though that's there. It's not about bad timing, though they've convinced themselves of that. And it's definitely not about you not mattering enough. In fact, it's precisely because you matter so much that they keep stopping. If you've been sensing something shifting, if you've caught those lingering looks that last a half second too long, if you've noticed the way conversations with this person have changed texture recently, if you've felt that electric tension that makes even casual interactions feel significant, you're not imagining it. Your intuition is reading the room perfectly. What you're picking up on is the aftermath of 3 moments this week where they almost changed everything between you. And here's why this matters more than you realize: each time they stop themselves reveals a different layer of what's actually happening in their heart. And when you understand what stopped them, you're going to see why reaching out first might be the most powerful thing you could do right now. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. Some of you watching this don't even know for certain who I'm talking about yet. You might have 2 or 3 people floating through your mind right now. That's okay. Keep watching, because the specifics of what I'm about to describe will make it clear. Others of you know exactly who this is. You've been watching this build for weeks, maybe months, and this week something intensified. You felt it. The air between you changed. Conversations got deeper or more awkward or somehow both at once. For those who need this, your person has been carrying this weight for longer than just this week. But this week, something shifted in them. Maybe they had a realization. Maybe they witnessed something that made them see you differently. Maybe they just reached a breaking point with keeping this inside. Whatever happened, this week became the week they decided to try. 3 times they gathered their courage. 3 times they created or seized a moment. 3 times they opened their mouth with the intention of finally saying what's been building. And 3 times, at the very last second, something made them swallow those words back down. I can feel some of you getting anxious right now, thinking this means they're not serious, or they're going to keep doing this forever, or you should just give up and stop hoping. Drop a heart emoji in the comments if you've been trying not to get your hopes up about someone. Because I need you to understand something before we go any further. What I'm about to reveal about why they stopped is actually going to give you more hope, not less. It's going to show you that this isn't about them not wanting this, it's about them wanting it so much that the stakes feel impossibly high. Stay with me here, because what's coming is going to reframe everything you've been feeling this week. The tension you've been carrying, wondering if you're reading too much into things, questioning whether that moment meant what you thought it meant, replaying conversations looking for evidence, that tension has a mirror image. They're carrying it too. Except theirs is sharper because they're the one holding the confession, and carrying unspoken truth is heavier than wondering about it. Before I take you deeper into what happened this week, if this message is already touching something in your soul, if you can feel the Holy Spirit using these words to speak directly to your situation, and you want to support this ministry so I can keep creating content that meets you exactly where you are, the super thanks button below this video allows you to do that. Your generosity makes these deep dives possible, and I'm genuinely grateful for every person who feels called to give. Now, let me tell you about the 3 times they almost said it, and more importantly, what stopped them each time. Because this is where everything becomes clear. The first time it almost happened was early in the week. They were in your presence, and something about the moment felt suspended, like time slowed down just enough for possibility to creep in. Maybe you were laughing about something ridiculous, one of those moments where joy feels easy and natural between you. Or maybe it was quieter than that, maybe you were both occupied with something mundane, existing in comfortable parallel, and they looked over at you doing whatever ordinary thing you were doing, and suddenly the ordinariness of it felt profound. They watched you push hair behind your ear, or squint at your phone screen, or make that particular expression you make when you're concentrating, and something in their chest cracked open. They felt it rising, the impulse to just say it, to just break the seal on this thing they've been carrying. Their hearts started racing. They could feel their pulse in their throat. The words were right there, formed and ready. I have feelings for you, or, I can't stop thinking about you, or, you mean more to me than you know, or whatever specific version they'd been rehearsing in their head for who knows how long. They took a breath, preparing to speak. And then, here's what stopped them the first time: you said something or did something completely innocent, completely unrelated, but it reminded them that you don't know what's coming. You're just existing in this moment as it is, without any awareness that it's about to shift. And they suddenly felt the weight of what they were about to do. They were about to take your peace, your normalcy, your ability to just be around them without complication, and change it forever. Even if you feel the same way, and some part of them hopes desperately that you do, they realized in that moment that once they say it, there's no going back. The dynamic you have now, whatever it is, will be gone. If you don't feel the same way, they lose even the version of closeness you currently share. If you do feel the same way, everything becomes real and vulnerable and terrifying in a completely different direction. So they swallowed the words. They made a joke instead, or changed the subject, or suddenly remembered something they needed to do. And you probably didn't even notice the shift, didn't catch the half-second of heaviness that passed over their face before they recovered. But they noticed. They felt those words slide back down their throat and settle back in their chest where they've been living, and they felt both relief and crushing disappointment with themselves. If you felt an unexplained moment of tension with someone this week, like something was about to happen but didn't, drop the word tension in the comments. You're not crazy. You were picking up on something real. The second time was different. This time, they'd planned it. After the first time, after feeling like a coward, they decided to be intentional. They created or sought out a moment with you. Maybe they texted you to meet up, or they stayed after when everyone else left, or they steered a conversation towards something more personal. They had a window, a setup, a plan. And this time, they got closer. This time, they started leading into it. Maybe they said something about how much they value you, or how important you've become to them, or how they've been thinking about things between you. You probably felt the shift, the way the conversation suddenly had weight, the way their voice changed, the way the energy between you became charged with something unnamed. They were building up to it. Creating the runway for the confession. And you might have even leaned in, literally or emotionally, sensing that something significant was happening. Their heart was hammering. Their palms might have been sweating. Every nerve in their body was firing because this was it, they were doing it, they were finally going to say it, and whatever happened next would happen. But here's what stopped them the second time, and this is crucial: they looked at you, really looked at you, and they saw something in your eyes. Maybe it was openness, maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was a kind of gentle expectation. And what hit them in that moment was this: if they say this now, your response becomes everything. Not just to them, but to you too. The pressure of that moment lands on both of you. You have to respond, right then, with them sitting there watching your face, waiting to see if their heart is about to break or soar. And they realized they were about to put you on the spot in a way that might not be fair, might not give you space to actually feel what you feel without the weight of their hope pressing down on the moment. Some of you know what I'm talking about because you've been on the receiving end of a confession that felt like being handed a bomb, where someone's entire emotional state suddenly depended on what you said next, and you could feel the unfairness of having to decide something so important in real time while they stared at you with desperate eyes. They didn't want to do that to you. So instead, they pulled back. They turned what they were saying into something safer, something that could sound platonic if you needed it to. They gave you an out without you even knowing you needed one. And once again, they walked away carrying words they didn't say, except this time it wasn't just fear, it was consideration for you, for what it would feel like to be suddenly responsible for their heart. This is the part where some of you are starting to understand that what you're dealing with isn't someone playing games. This is someone who cares so much about you that even their silence is a kind of protection. Don't disappear on me now, what's coming next will show you why all of this is actually leading somewhere beautiful. The third time happened later in the week. By now, they were frustrated with themselves. Twice they'd had opportunities and twice they'd backed down. They started wondering if they were ever actually going to do this, or if they were just going to carry this forever, watching opportunities pass, staying stuck in this limbo of unspoken feelings. So when the third moment came, maybe during a regular check-in, maybe in the middle of a random conversation, maybe in a pause between other things, they just went for it. No plan, no build-up, just raw impulse. They opened their mouth with the pure intention of finally just saying it, consequences be damned. And here's what stopped them the third time, they realized they didn't just want to confess, they wanted to know what happens next. And they couldn't see it. They couldn't see the map beyond the confession. They couldn't imagine what the next day looks like, what the next conversation sounds like, what you two become after the words are out. This wasn't fear of rejection in the traditional sense. This was the vertigo of standing at a threshold and realizing that crossing it means stepping into territory with no script, no guidebook, no guarantee. It means navigating feelings in real time. It means figuring out what you two are together instead of what they've been imagining alone. And they weren't sure if they were ready for that level of uncertainty, that level of vulnerability extended over time instead of just in one moment. So they stopped again. They said something else, something safe. And the moment passed. Now, before you start thinking this means they're never going to say anything, or that you should just move on, or that this is hopeless, let me tell you what these three stopped moments actually reveal. Because this is where everything I've been building to comes into focus. What these three attempts tell you is that this person is serious. They're not idly crushing or casually interested. They're not testing the waters for fun. They tried 3 times in 1 week to change the entire trajectory of your relationship. 3 times they gathered courage that most people never gather once. 3 times they walked right up to the edge of vulnerability and looked over. The fact that they stopped each time doesn't diminish the significance of the attempt, it actually amplifies it. Because each time they stopped for a reason that shows how much you matter. First time, they stopped because they saw your innocence, your unawareness, and they didn't want to shatter it carelessly. They stopped because the moment felt too casual for something this significant. They stopped because you deserved a better version of this conversation than a spontaneous blurting in the middle of ordinary time. Second time, they stopped because they saw you, really saw you, and they didn't want to pressure you. They stopped because they care about your emotional experience as much as their own. They stopped because making you responsible for their feelings in that moment felt selfish. Third time, they stopped because they wanted to be ready for what comes after. They stopped because this isn't just about confessing, it's about beginning something real, and they want to do justice to that. Type "I see you" in the comments if you're starting to understand that someone's hesitation might actually be respect. Do you see what I'm showing you? Each stopped moment is evidence of depth, of care, of emotional intelligence. These aren't the stops of someone playing games, these are the stops of someone who takes you seriously. But here's where we need to talk about what happens now. Because here's what they don't realize, what they can't see from their perspective, by stopping 3 times, they've actually done something else. They've created a pattern. They've established a rhythm of reaching towards something and pulling back. And if that pattern continues, there's a risk that this thing between you, this alive, potential-filled thing, could calcify into permanent silence. Not because the feelings go away. The feelings might actually get stronger. But because the longer they carry these words unsaid, the heavier the words become, until eventually the weight itself becomes the reason not to speak. You know what I'm talking about if you've ever had something you needed to say to someone, and days turned into weeks turned into months, and the thing you needed to say grew barnacles and became this massive unsaid thing that felt impossible to suddenly bring up, because how do you explain why you waited so long? That's the risk here. That's what the 3 stopped attempts are pointing toward if nothing changes. And here's what I need you to understand, what this entire message has been building toward: you have more power in this situation than you think you do. And reaching out first, not with a confession of your own necessarily, but with an opening, with an invitation, with permission, could be the thing that breaks this pattern wide open. Let me be clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not saying you should confess your feelings if you're not sure you have them. I'm not saying you should chase someone who hasn't shown interest. I'm not saying you should make yourself vulnerable just because someone else is struggling to. But if you've felt this, if you've sensed the tension, if you've wondered about the long looks and the almost said things, if there's a part of you that hopes this is about you, then you're not in the dark here. You're in the tension with them. And reaching out first doesn't mean declaring feelings, it means creating space. It means saying, "I've noticed things feel different between us lately," and letting them know it's safe to name it. It means texting them something honest like, "Can we talk? I feel like there's something unspoken," and opening the door they keep standing in front of. It means looking at them next time you're together and saying, "You can tell me things, you know." Whatever it is, and giving them permission to be honest. Some of you just felt resistance rise up. You're thinking, "But if they wanted to tell me, they would. I shouldn't have to make it easier for them. They're the one with the feelings, they should be brave enough to say it." And I hear that. I understand that impulse. There's a part of you that wants them to prove their feelings by being courageous enough to say them without prompting. There's a fairness argument happening in your head about who should go first, who should take the risk, who should be the brave one. But let me ask you something: what if brave doesn't look like you think it does? What if bravery in this situation is recognizing that someone is struggling with vulnerability and choosing to meet them halfway? What if the strong one isn't the person who forces someone else to expose themselves completely, it's the person who says, "I see you struggling, and I'm going to make this easier." If you've ever wanted someone to meet you halfway in something vulnerable, drop the word "halfway" below. Because maybe that's what you're being called to do here. Think about it. They've tried 3 times. 3 times they've walked up to the edge of honesty. That's not nothing. That's not someone who doesn't care enough to try. That's someone who's trying and getting stuck, trying and getting stuck, trying and getting stuck. They're caught in a loop of their own fear and consideration and uncertainty. And you who've been watching this, feeling this, wondering about this, you have the ability to break that loop. Not by making them less afraid, but by showing them that the thing they're afraid of isn't as dangerous as they think. By demonstrating that honesty between you two is possible, that vulnerability won't destroy what you have, that the stakes, while real, aren't life or death. This isn't about chasing. This is about recognizing a stalemate and choosing to move first. This is about seeing someone stuck and offering a hand instead of waiting for them to figure out how to unstick themselves while you watch. And here's what might happen if you do reach out first: if you create that opening, they might flood with relief. They might realize they've been waiting for permission they didn't even know they needed. They might feel the weight lift just enough to finally say what they've been carrying. Or they might not. They might still hesitate, might still need more time, might still not be ready. And if that happens, you'll know. You'll have your answer, not because they rejected you, but because you created space for honesty, and the honesty was, "I'm not ready," or "I'm not sure," or whatever it is. We're just getting to the heart of this. What's ahead is going to give you the clarity and courage you need to know what to do next. But either way, you stop being stuck in this wondering. You stop being the person watching someone struggle in silence. You become an active participant in whatever this is, rather than a passive observer of someone else's internal drama. And here's something beautiful that I'm seeing as I speak this: for some of you, reaching out first isn't going to be the scary thing you think it is. It's actually going to feel like relief. Because you've been carrying your own version of silence, haven't you? You've been carrying your own wondering, your own hoping but not saying, your own fear of disrupting what is by reaching for what could be. You're both stuck. You're stuck together, on opposite sides of the same wall, neither one knowing that the other is right there on the other side, equally afraid, equally hoping, equally silent. And someone has to be brave enough to knock on the wall and say, "Are you there?" Why shouldn't it be you? Let me tell you what's really happening here, beneath all the stopped confessions and the tension and the wondering. Let me tell you what the universe, what the divine, what your higher self is trying to show you through this exact situation. This isn't a story about someone who almost said something and didn't. This is a story about how love, real love, significant love, the kind that matters, makes people vulnerable in ways that terrify them. And how that terror isn't weakness, it's evidence of value. They're scared because you're important. They're hesitating because this matters. But here's the deeper truth, the thing I really need you to hear: the 3 stopped moments aren't failures. They're preparation. Each time they walked up to that edge and stopped, they learned something. They learned what they're afraid of. They learned what matters to them about how this conversation happens. They learned that they want this badly enough to keep trying even after backing down. They're not stuck, they're gathering. They're gathering courage, gathering clarity, gathering readiness. And the fact that they tried 3 times in 1 week means something is building, something is reaching critical mass, something is preparing to emerge. The question is, do you want to wait for that emergence to happen on its own timeline, or do you want to participate in it? Because here's what I'm really sensing as I sit with this message: you're not supposed to just be the receiver of someone else's confession. You're supposed to be a co-creator of what happens next. This isn't about them gathering the courage to tell you while you wait passively. This is about both of you finding the courage to be honest about what's happening between you. And the reason this week held 3 attempts is because this week is significant. There's a window opening right now, an energetic window, a relational window, a divine timing window. Something is ripe. Something is ready. The universe is creating conditions for truth, for breakthrough, for things that have been hidden to come into the light. They felt it. That's why they tried 3 times. They're responding to the same cosmic pull you're feeling right now watching this video. There's a nowness to this moment that won't last forever. Not because the feelings will disappear, but because the specific opportunity of now, the specific energy of this timing, will shift into something else. If you feel like there's a timing element to this, like something needs to happen soon, type timing in the comments. Because your intuition is speaking truth to you. Let me paint you a picture of what could happen if you reach out. Not what will happen, I can't promise outcomes, but what becomes possible. Imagine you send a message. Something simple, honest, direct. I feel like there's something we're not talking about. Can we talk? Or, I've noticed things feel different between us lately. I'd like to understand what's happening. They see it. Their heart jumps into their throat because this is it. You've opened the door they've been staring at. You've given them the invitation they didn't know they were waiting for. And suddenly, the confession they've been carrying doesn't feel like a bomb they're dropping on you out of nowhere, it feels like a response to something you've invited. The pressure shifts. It's not all on them anymore. You're both in it together, navigating it together, being honest together. Or imagine you're together in person, and you create a moment. You say, "Can I ask you something?" and you let silence sit for a second, and you say, "What's been on your mind lately? You seem like something's weighing on you." And you say it with kindness, with openness, with genuine care. And they feel seen. They feel the weight of carrying this alone start to lift because someone noticed, someone asked, someone made it safe to be honest. And maybe in that moment, maybe not right then but soon after, the walls come down and the truth comes out. This is what reaching out first makes possible. Not a guarantee, but a possibility. An opening. A pathway that didn't exist when you were both staying silent. And here's what else becomes possible: you stop being the person things happen to, and you become the person who makes things happen. You stop waiting for life to deliver news to you, and you start participating in the creation of your own story. This is power. This is agency. This is choosing courage over comfort, motion over stagnation, truth over endless wondering. Some of you are feeling resistance to this, and I want to honor that resistance for a moment. Maybe you're thinking, but I've been hurt before by reaching out first. I've been vulnerable and had it thrown back in my face. I've made the first move and been rejected and felt stupid and regretted it. I hear you. I honor that wound. And I'm not asking you to ignore it or pretend it doesn't matter. But I am asking you to consider that this situation might be different. That this person, who has tried 3 times to tell you something and stopped each time out of care and consideration and fear of the stakes, might not be the same as the person who hurt you before. And even more than that, I'm asking you to consider that protecting yourself from potential hurt by staying silent might actually guarantee a different kind of hurt, the hurt of wondering forever, of never knowing, of watching this moment pass and asking yourself years from now why you didn't speak when you had the chance. You get to choose which risk you're willing to take. The risk of being vulnerable and possibly being hurt, or the risk of staying safe and possibly losing something that could have been beautiful. If this ministry is speaking to your soul right now, if you feel the Holy Spirit moving through these words, and you're in a position to support this work financially, the Super Thanks option below allows you to bless this channel. Your generosity helps me continue creating content that meets people in their most tender moments, and I don't take it lightly. Here's what I know to be true: people who reach out first, who choose vulnerability even when it's scary, who create openings for honest conversation, these people don't always get the outcome they hoped for, but they always get clarity. They always get to stop wondering. They always get to know they were brave. And bravery looks good on you. It changes something in you when you choose courage, regardless of the outcome. It builds self-respect. It creates evidence for yourself that you're someone who doesn't hide, doesn't shrink, doesn't let fear make all your decisions. The version of you on the other side of reaching out, whether the conversation goes beautifully or painfully or somewhere in between, is stronger than the version of you who stayed silent. Because that version took action. That version participated. That version refused to be stuck. And maybe, just maybe, the reason you're watching this video right now, the reason this message found you at this exact moment, is because you're being called to be that version. You're being called to reach out first. You're being called to break the stalemate. You're being called to create the opening that allows truth to emerge. The 3 times they almost confessed. Those were them responding to the call. Now it's your turn to respond. So let's get practical. If you're going to reach out, if you're going to create this opening, how do you do it in a way that's authentic and kind and doesn't put unnecessary pressure on either of you? First principle: match your approach to your relationship. If you text all the time, text. If you see each other in person regularly, wait for an in-person moment. If you talk on the phone, call. Don't suddenly change mediums in a way that feels dramatic or unlike you. The goal is to create an opening, not to make them panic by doing something wildly out of character. What this might sound like over text: hey, I've been wanting to talk to you about something, and I'm not totally sure how to say it, but I feel like things have been a little different between us lately. Not bad different, just different. And I wanted to check in and see if you felt it too, or if I'm reading too much into things. Or, random question, but have you noticed things feeling kind of charged between us recently? Maybe I'm overthinking, but I'd rather ask than keep wondering. Or even simpler, I feel like there's something we're not talking about. Can we talk? What this might sound like in person: wait for a quiet moment, not a rushed one. Look at them directly and say, I want to ask you something, and I hope this doesn't make things weird, but I've been sensing something between us lately, like there's something unspoken. Am I crazy, or have you felt it too? Or, you can tell me things, right? I mean, really tell me things. Because if something's on your mind, I want you to know it's safe to say it. Or, I'm just going to be direct because I'm not good at dancing around things. What's going on with us? Because it feels like something's going on. Notice what all of these approaches have in common: they're honest without being confrontational. They create space without demanding. They acknowledge something without assuming everything. You're not saying, "I know you have feelings for me." You're not putting words in their mouth or backing them into a corner. You're naming that you've noticed a shift, and you're inviting them to talk about it if they want to. This gives them room. It gives them the option to say, "Yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about something," or to say, "I'm not sure what you mean," or to ask for more time. It opens the door without forcing them through it. Second principle, be prepared for any response. Before you reach out, sit with yourself and honestly ask, can I handle it if they don't feel the same way? Can I handle it if they're not ready to talk about it? Can I handle awkwardness or uncertainty or even temporary weirdness between us? If the answer is no, if you know that reaching out and not getting the response you hope for will devastate you or make you unable to interact with them anymore, then you might need to wait. Not forever, but until you're in a stronger place emotionally. But if the answer is yes, if you can genuinely say, "I'd rather know than wonder, and I can handle whatever they say," then you're ready. Third principle, trust your intuition about timing. There's a difference between, "I should wait until I feel zero fear," which will never happen, and, "My gut is telling me this isn't the right moment yet." Learn to distinguish between fear that's trying to protect you from nothing and wisdom that's telling you to pause. If you feel a green light, if something in you says, "Now," trust it. Don't second-guess yourself into paralysis. The fact that you're watching this video, that this message found you, that you're still reading this section about how to reach out, that's probably not coincidence. Who else has been getting signs to take action on something? Drop the word "signs" if this is speaking to you. Fourth principle, give them space to respond in their own way and time. If you reach out via text, don't freak out if they don't respond immediately. They might need time to process, to gather their own courage, to figure out what they want to say. Don't send follow-up messages demanding a response or assuming their silence means rejection. If you create an opening in person and they don't immediately pour their heart out, don't push. Let them sit with it. Say something like, "You don't have to answer right now. I just wanted you to know I've noticed, and I'm open to talking about it whenever you're ready." Respect their process while also respecting your own need for eventual clarity. There's a balance between giving someone space and letting them hide indefinitely. Fifth principle, be honest about your own feelings if it feels right. You don't have to pretend you're neutral if you're not. If you reach out and they start to open up and you realize you want to be honest too, do it. "I'm asking because I've been feeling something too, and I wasn't sure if you were feeling it or if it was just me. Full transparency, I think about you more than I probably should, and I've been wondering if this is just one-sided or if there's something here. I don't know exactly what I'm feeling, but I know it's something, and I'd like to explore it if you're open to that." Mutual vulnerability is powerful. It removes the dynamic of one person exposing themselves while the other stays protected. It creates equality in the risk. Sixth principle, whatever happens, honor yourself for taking the action. Whether this goes beautifully or terribly or somewhere in between, you did something brave. You chose clarity over comfort. You participated in your own life instead of watching it happen to you. That matters. That counts. That changes something in you regardless of the outcome. Some of you are going to reach out and it's going to go better than you imagined. They're going to be relieved, grateful, ready. The conversation you've both been afraid to have is going to happen, and it's going to open up something beautiful between you. Some of you are going to reach out and it's going to be awkward and uncertain, but it's going to start a process. It won't be immediate clarity, but it will be movement. And movement is better than stuckness. Some of you are going to reach out and you're going to discover that what you were sensing wasn't what you hoped it was. And it's going to hurt. But you're going to survive the hurt, and you're going to have your answer, and you're going to be able to move forward instead of staying frozen in wondering. All of these outcomes are better than the alternative, which is staying silent, watching this week of 3 almost confessions turn into months of continued silence, wondering forever, and eventually looking back with regret. This next part is crucial. stay with me because I'm about to show you what this moment is really about. Here's what reaching out first really means. It means you're someone who values truth more than comfort. It means you're someone who's willing to risk looking foolish or being hurt because you refuse to play it safe when something real might be possible. It means you're someone who understands that vulnerability is strength, not weakness. And that's exactly the kind of person who creates the kind of relationships worth having. Because real connection, deep, authentic, lasting connection, requires people who are willing to be seen, willing to speak truth, willing to take emotional risks. If you stay silent, you stay safe. But safe isn't the same as fulfilled. Safe isn't the same as alive. Safe isn't the same as connected. And I don't think you're here for safe. I think you're here because some part of you knows that this moment matters, that this situation with this person who almost said something 3 times this week, it matters. It's significant. It's worth the risk. So here's my question for you, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you say if you knew for certain they'd respond well? Now here's the harder question, what if you did it anyway, even without that guarantee? I want to close by speaking directly to something I feel some of you are carrying. There's a fear underneath all of this that I haven't named yet, and it's time to bring it into the light. You're afraid that if you reach out first, if you create this opening, you'll be the one who cared more. You'll be the one who was braver. You'll be the one who made it happen. And some part of you wants them to be that person. You want them to be the one who overcame fear for you, who risked everything for you, who loved you enough to push through their hesitation. And I understand that desire. There's something romantic about being the one someone breaks through their fears for. There's something validating about being chosen so powerfully that someone overcomes their own barriers to claim you. But here's what I need you to understand, if you reach out first, you're not diminishing their feelings, you're revealing your own strength. You're not letting them off the hook, you're showing them what courage looks like. You're not settling for less, you're refusing to participate in a mutual stalemate that serves no one. The person who reaches out first isn't the person who cared more. They're the person who was brave enough to act on their caring. And that's not weakness, that's power. Besides, do you really want your relationship, if this becomes a relationship, to start with a story where you both stayed stuck in fear until one of you finally, reluctantly, gathered the courage to speak? Or would you rather the story be that you recognized what was happening, saw that you were both caught in the same beautiful, terrifying moment, and you were the one with the clarity and courage to say, let's stop dancing around this. Let's be honest. That's a better story. That's a stronger foundation. That's you at your best. And here's what I believe is going to happen for many of you, when you reach out, when you create that opening, they're going to feel something unlock in them. They're going to realize they've been given permission, space, safety. And the conversation that follows is going to be one you both participate in, one you co-create, one where you're both vulnerable and honest and real. You won't be the only one who cared. You'll be the one who had the courage to go first, and they'll be the one who had the courage to respond honestly. That's partnership. That's equality. That's 2 people meeting each other in truth. If you're feeling the call to reach out, if something in you is saying, yes, this is what I need to do, drop a heart emoji one more time. Because I want you to see that you're not alone in this. There are so many people watching this who are in the same situation, feeling the same pull, recognizing the same moment. For those of you who are still uncertain, who need a little more time, who aren't quite ready yet, that's okay too. Honor your process. This message will be here when you're ready. The insights you've gained from watching this won't disappear. And maybe your reaching out looks different than what I've described. Maybe it's smaller, gentler, more gradual. Trust yourself to know what's right for your situation. But for those who know, who feel in their gut that this message is for them, that this week of 3 almost confessions is the sign they've been waiting for, that it's time to stop wondering and start knowing, I'm telling you, reach out. Today. This week. Soon. While the energy of this moment is still alive, while the 3 attempts are still fresh, while the door is still open. Send the text. Have the conversation. Create the opening. Be brave. The absolute worst thing that can happen is you get clarity. You find out where you stand. You stop living in the limbo of wondering. And even if the clarity isn't what you hoped for, even if the answer is not what you wanted to hear, you'll survive it. You'll move forward. You'll be proud of yourself for trying. And the best thing that can happen? The best thing is that your reaching out is the key that unlocks what's been trying to emerge between you. Your courage becomes the catalyst for their courage. Your honesty creates space for their honesty. And what's been brewing beneath the surface finally comes into the light where it can become real. They almost said it 3 times. 3 times they came so close. They're standing at the door, hand hovering over the handle, trying to find the courage to turn it. You can open it from your side. You can say, I see you standing there. I know what you're trying to say. It's okay. Come in. That's what reaching out first really is. It's not chasing. It's not begging. It's not diminishing yourself. It's extending an invitation to honesty. It's saying, whatever this is between us, let's stop pretending it's not happening. Let's be brave enough to look at it together. And my friend, that's exactly what this moment is calling for. Not more silence. Not more wondering. Not more of both of you standing on opposite sides of the same wall, afraid to knock. This is your moment. This is your call. This is your invitation to participate in the creation of your own story instead of waiting for it to be written to you. They almost said it 3 times. What if you're the reason they finally do? Before you go, if this video met you exactly where you needed to be met today, if it gave you clarity or courage or hope, consider supporting this channel through the Super Thanks feature. Your generosity allows me to keep creating these deep, specific, soul-level messages that speak to what you're actually going through. Every contribution matters, and I'm deeply grateful. And finally, tell me in the comments, what's one word that describes how you're feeling after watching this? Just one word, drop it below. I want to witness where you are in this moment, and I have a feeling you'll find encouragement in seeing others' words too. You're not alone in this. You're seen, you're understood, and you're braver than you think. Go reach out. Go create the opening. Go be the catalyst. The right person will meet you there.